Undercover owner of the diner pretends to be an ordinary worker, shocked by how employees treat him. Samuel Carter adjusted his worn-out baseball cap and straightened the collar of his faded plaid shirt. His reflection in the window of Sunrise Diner showed a man no one would recognize as the successful entrepreneur who had just bought this place. 6 months of negotiation had finally paid off. Sunrise Diner was officially his, the crown jewel in a small but growing collection of local eateries he was revitalizing across the state. But unlike his previous acquisitions, this purchase came with whispers and warnings. The food's great when it's good but inconsistent, his business partner had told him. And I've heard rumors about turnover issues in the kitchen. Something's not right behind those swinging doors. Sam could have waltzed in with his tailored suit and ownership papers, demanding changes and improvements. That's what the previous owners would have done, flying in for brief inspections before retreating to their vacation homes. Instead, he'd made a different choice. Starting tomorrow, I'm Sam Wilson, he told his reflection, rehearsing his cover story. Just a guy looking for steady work who knows his way around a kitchen. The bell above the door jingled as Sam pushed it open at 5:45 a.m. The dining area was empty of customers, but a few servers were setting up tables, folding napkins into perfect triangles, and filling salt and pepper shakers. "Can I help you?" asked a young woman with perfectly styled hair and a name tag reading Jessica. Her smile was warm and professional, but her eyes did a quick assessment of his appearance, lingering on his scuffed work boots. "I'm Sam. Starting as prep cook today, manager told me to be here at 6. Jessica's smile noticeably cooled. "Oh, kitchen staff, break rooms through there, then all the way back." She pointed vaguely toward a hallway before turning away. Sam made his way past the gleaming countertops and comfortable booths. The dining area was immaculate, vintage 1950s decor that had been carefully maintained, with chrome accents and aqua vinyl. The atmosphere changed dramatically once he pushed through the swinging doors. The kitchen was a different world altogether. While not dirty, it had a chaotic energy that contrasted sharply with the front. A young dishwasher was already elbow-deep in soapy water, despite it being before opening. A harried-looking cook was barking orders at a nervous teenager who was dropping muffin batter into tins. "You must be the new guy." A tall man with a prominent belly and chef's whites approached. "I'm Marco, head chef. You're..." Sam checked his watch. "It's 5:52, I was told. Kitchen staff gets here at 5:30. Front of house shows up at 6. Marco's voice had an edge. "First lesson, when I say jump, you don't even ask how high. You just jump as high as you possibly can." Before Sam could respond, the swinging doors burst open. A group of servers entered, laughing loudly about something. Jessica was among them, alongside a striking blonde woman and 2 men with identical carefully groomed beards. "Morning, chef," the blonde called out brightly. "We brought you coffee." Marco's demeanor transformed instantly. His scowl melted into a broad smile. "Ah, my favorite people. Thank you, Amber." Sam watched the interaction with interest. The contrast between how Marco had just spoken to him versus how he greeted the servers was striking. "New guy, huh?" One of the bearded men sized Sam up. "Think this one will last the week, chef?" Marco chuckled. "Give him 3 days." The last one cried when Amber sent back an order for being too cold. "I had to." Mrs. Jameson would have complained. Amber protested with a dramatic flip of her hair. "The food was fine," the young muffin baker muttered under his breath. "What was that, Kevin?" Marco's voice sharpened instantly. "Nothing, chef," Kevin responded, shoulders hunching. Sam was assigned to basic prep work, chopping vegetables, mixing batters, and assembling ingredients for the line cooks. As he worked, he kept his ears open and his mouth shut. By lunchtime, the pattern was clear. The front-of-house staff sailed through the kitchen, like royalty, making demands, changing orders, and occasionally helping themselves to fresh-baked goods, without asking. When the kitchen couldn't keep up with their modifications and special requests, they complained loudly. Not to the cooks directly, but to Marco, who then berated his staff. "New guy!" Marco barked after a particularly hectic lunch rush. The home fries for table 7 were soggy. "I didn't make any home fries," Sam responded, confused. "Doesn't matter. In this kitchen we're all responsible. You see something that isn't right, you fix it." Marco turned to address the entire kitchen. That's the problem with you people. No initiative. Meanwhile, the servers were taking turns standing in front of the air conditioning vent, fanning themselves and comparing tip amounts while kitchen staff sweated through their shirts in the steamy heat. By mid-afternoon, Sam had already witnessed 3 disturbing incidents. First, Kevin was berated for 10 solid minutes for using slightly too much cinnamon in the apple pie filling. A change that had actually been requested by a regular customer, according to the order ticket. Then the dishwasher, a quiet immigrant named Eduardo, was mocked mercilessly by one of the bearded servers for his accent when he asked where to put some clean pans. The third incident was the most telling. A young server not part of the in-crowd with Amber and Jessica brought back an order she'd entered incorrectly. Instead of owning the mistake, she loudly blamed the kitchen. Marco, instead of checking the ticket, immediately sided with her and made the line cook redo the entire order during the rush. "You see how we get treated?" whispered the line cook. A woman named Darlene, when they found themselves alone for a moment. "It's been getting worse since the old owners stopped coming around. The front makes all the tips, but we get all the blame when anything goes wrong. Has anyone complained to management?" Sam asked, carefully keeping his tone neutral. Darlene snorted. "Marco is management, and he's more interested in keeping Amber happy than running a fair kitchen." She lowered her voice further. 3 good cooks quit last month. Rumor is the place got sold again, but nobody's seen the new owner. Probably another absent investor who doesn't care as long as the profits keep coming. "Maybe the new owner doesn't know what's happening," Sam suggested. "They never do," Darlene sighed. "Look, if you want to last here, keep your head down, don't question the servers, and laugh at Marco's jokes. That's the only way to survive." At exactly 4:00 p.m., the front-of-house staff preparing for the dinner shift made a dramatic entrance. One of them, a tall man with a meticulously waxed mustache, dropped a tray of dirty dishes right next to Eduardo without acknowledging him. "That's Gregory," Darlene explained. "Head server, watch out for him. He got the last prep cook fired by hiding his prep work right before inspection." Sam nodded slowly, making a mental note of every name and interaction. By the end of his first day, his hands were blistered from chopping and his back ached from bending over the prep table, but his mind was racing with observations. As he untied his apron, Marco approached. "You survived day 1, he said, his tone suggesting this was somewhat surprising. "Most of your vegetable cuts were acceptable. Not great, but I've seen worse." "Thanks," Sam replied, recognizing this as high praise in this environment. "Be here at 5:30 tomorrow, not 5:31, and bring your own knife if you have one. The house knives are for people who've proven themselves." Sam nodded, watching as Marco immediately turned to fawn over Amber, who was counting her tips at a corner table. Outside in the parking lot, Sam sat in his deliberately ordinary sedan, rather than the luxury car he'd left at home. He pulled out a small notebook and began jotting down observations and names. What he'd witnessed today was far worse than the rumors had suggested. The divide between front and back of house wasn't just a matter of different responsibilities, it was a toxic culture of favoritism and abuse. The diner still had its charm, its loyal customers, and moments of culinary excellence, but behind the scenes, it was a pressure cooker, ready to explode. Sam started his car, his mind already formulating a plan. He wasn't just going to observe this dysfunction, he was going to fix it. But first, he needed to understand just how deep the rot went. Tomorrow would be day 2 of his undercover mission, and if today was any indication, he hadn't seen anything yet. By his 3rd day at Sunrise Diner, Sam had developed a clear picture of the establishment's unofficial caste system. It wasn't subtle, it was boldly displayed like the daily specials on the chalkboard. "Why is Jessica getting off early again?" Darlene muttered as she wiped sweat from her brow. The kitchen temperature hovered around 90 degrees while the dining area was kept perfectly cool. "That's the 3rd time this week. She's covering Amber's morning shift tomorrow," Eduardo explained quietly, scrubbing furiously at a particularly stubborn pot. "So Marco lets her leave early." Sam looked up from the mountain of potatoes he was peeling. "But didn't Kevin ask to leave early for his son's baseball game yesterday?" "And got denied," confirmed Eduardo. "Kitchen staff needs 2 weeks' notice for schedule changes. Front of house just needs to bat their eyelashes at Marco." The divide was painfully obvious in every aspect of diner operations. While Sam chopped, diced, and prepped alongside his kitchen colleagues, he took mental inventory of the inequities. Front of house staff got first pick of shifts, with prime money-making hours always going to Marco's favorites, particularly Amber, Jessica, and Gregory. Kitchen staff were assigned whatever hours remained, often spanning brutal doubles with barely legal break times. The bonus system was another slap in the face. Servers received kickbacks for pushing high-margin specials and liquor sales. Meanwhile, the kitchen staff who actually prepared those special dishes received nothing extra despite the additional work. "Watch this," Kevin whispered. As Gregory approached the pass-through window, the tall server placed a ticket and immediately snapped his fingers at Darlene. "This one's for the Johnsons, VIP customers. I need it perfect and I need it fast," he demanded. Darlene nodded silently, but as soon as Gregory walked away, she showed Sam the ticket. "Look at the timestamp," she pointed. "He's held this ticket for 15 minutes. Now he's rushing us because he was too busy flirting with Table 9. When the order inevitably came out late, Sam watched Gregory dramatically apologize to the customers, throwing a pointed glance toward the kitchen. "Our back of house is having some efficiency issues today. I'll make sure you get complimentary dessert." The pattern repeated throughout the day. Front of house mistakes became kitchen failures. Kitchen successes became server achievements. During the afternoon lull, Sam was surprised to see Marco gathering the servers for an impromptu meeting at one of the booths. Curious, he positioned himself within earshot while pretending to organize supplies. "Good news, everyone," Marco announced cheerfully. "We've exceeded our revenue targets for the third week straight. You know what that means, bonus time." The servers exchanged excited high fives as Marco distributed envelopes. No kitchen staff were invited to the meeting. "What about the kitchen crew?" Sam asked later when he found himself alone with Darlene. "Don't they get bonuses too?" Darlene laughed bitterly. "The last kitchen bonus I saw was 6 months ago when the regional manager visited. Funny how that disappeared as soon as he left." The meal policy was another source of resentment. Front of house staff received free meals during shifts, their choice from the entire menu. Kitchen staff were allowed only the day's mistakes or leftovers, often cold and picked over. "Why does Marco let this happen?" Sam asked Kevin, as they took a rare 5-minute break together. "Isn't he responsible for the entire operation?" Kevin lowered his voice. "Marco used to be different. When he first started, he stood up for us. But then he realized where the power was. The pretty servers bring in customers and tips. He wants to be part of their crowd, not stuck with the kitchen losers." That evening, Sam witnessed the ultimate display of favoritism. A family with small children left a significant mess at their table: spilled drinks, food on the floor, crayon marks on the placemats. "Eduardo," called Marco, "Table 6 needs cleaning." The dishwasher looked up confused. "But I'm not on floor duty." "You are now," Marco snapped. "Amber doesn't need to deal with that disaster." As Eduardo shuffled out with cleaning supplies, Amber shot him a smug smile before settling into a booth with Jessica. They scrolled through phones and sampled freshly baked cookies that Kevin had been reprimanded for sampling earlier that day. Later, Sam overheard a conversation that confirmed his worst suspicions. "The new owner is visiting next month," Marco told Gregory in hushed tones. "We need to make sure everything looks perfect." "Like last time?" Gregory smirked. "Get the kitchen staff to work doubles. Threaten their jobs if anything goes wrong, and make sure they stay in the back where they belong?" Marco nodded. "Exactly. And remind me to fire anyone who complains before inspection day." Sam felt his blood pressure rising. So the pattern was established: hide problems rather than fix them. Put on a show for ownership while maintaining the toxic hierarchy. As his shift ended, Sam noticed a help wanted sign being added to the window. The third one this month, according to Darlene. "Another good cook quit," she explained, gathering her things. "Carlos couldn't take it anymore. That's 5 kitchen staff gone in 2 months, while not a single server has left." Sam nodded grimly. The situation was even worse than he'd imagined, and tomorrow, he had the early breakfast shift, the most chaotic time when the divide between front and back would be on full display. The Saturday morning rush at Sunrise Diner was legendary in town. Families fresh from soccer practice, couples recovering from Friday night revelry, and senior citizens seeking their ritual weekend breakfast. all converged in a perfect storm of pancake and bacon demands. Sam had been working undercover for a week now, and he'd seen his share of disturbing behavior, but nothing had prepared him for this particular morning. "I need all hands on deck," Marco announced, his face already flushed with stress. "The regional food critic from the Tribune is supposedly coming in today." The kitchen staff exchanged nervous glances. Everyone knew what happened during high-pressure services. The blame game intensified, and kitchen staff always lost. "Ethan," Marco barked at the youngest employee, a dishwasher, who had started just 3 days before Sam. "You're on dish and prep backup today. If anyone needs anything, you drop everything and help them." Ethan nodded earnestly. At 19, with shaggy hair perpetually damp from dishwater and a constellation of acne across his cheeks, he was the definition of eager to please. Sam had noticed him staying late without pay to clean extra equipment and coming in early to prep before his official start time. By 9:30 a.m., the diner was at capacity with a line stretching out the door. The kitchen moved in controlled chaos. The sizzle of bacon, the rhythmic scraping of spatulas, and the constant dinging of the order bell. Despite the pressure, they were holding it together. Then Amber stormed into the kitchen. "Table 12's order is taking forever," she snapped, tapping her manicured nails on the pass-through counter. "They've been waiting 20 minutes. Marco immediately rounded on the line cooks. "What's the holdup on 12? Darlene checked the tickets hanging in front of her. "I don't have a ticket for 12. I definitely rang it in," Amber insisted, her voice rising dramatically. "This is exactly why we get bad reviews." Sam, working nearby, noticed something odd in Amber's demeanor, a slight smirk playing at the corner of her mouth as chaos erupted. He'd seen enough office drama in his business career to recognize manufactured drama. The mystery was solved when Gregory passed by and whispered to Amber, "Tickets still in your apron pocket." "Nice one." Sam felt his face flush with anger. She had deliberately failed to submit the order, and then blamed the kitchen. Before he could intervene, however, a more immediate crisis unfolded. "Ethan, I need clean ramekins now," Jessica called from the other side of the kitchen. The young dishwasher abandoned his station and rushed to the storage area. In his haste to help, he didn't notice Gregory deliberately extending his foot. Ethan tripped spectacularly, sending a stack of freshly cleaned plates crashing to the floor in a deafening symphony of destruction. The kitchen fell silent for one breath-holding moment before erupting. "What the hell?" Marco bellowed, his face purpling. "That's over $200 in plates, you clumsy idiot." Ethan's face crumpled as he dropped to his knees, frantically gathering shards. "I'm sorry, You tripped because you're incompetent," Gregory interjected smoothly. "Some people just aren't cut out for restaurant work." Sam noticed customers peering in through the pass-through window, curious about the commotion. One elderly woman nearly caught a shard of flying porcelain as it skittered dangerously close to the boundary between kitchen and dining room. This was more than bullying now, it was a safety hazard. Marco seemed to realize the same thing, and quickly shifted into damage control. But instead of addressing the actual problem, he chose the familiar path of least resistance. "Ladies and gentlemen, nothing to worry about," he announced, stepping into the dining area with a practiced smile. "Just a little accident in the back. We've got new kitchen staff who are still learning the ropes." The customers nodded sympathetically. Several shot disapproving looks toward the kitchen, where Ethan was still gathering shards, a small trickle of blood now running down his palm from where a piece had sliced his skin. "Kitchen's a mess today," Marco continued, loud enough for all the back staff to hear. "Please know that your servers are doing everything they can to compensate for these challenges. We appreciate your patience with our less experienced team members." Sam watched in disbelief as Marco, the very person responsible for maintaining kitchen standards and morale, threw his own team under the bus. Not only was he failing to correct the sabotage, he was actively reinforcing it. When Marco returned to the kitchen, his solicitous smile vanished. "Clean this up," he hissed at Ethan. "And it's coming out of your pay." "But Ethan began. "One more word and you're fired," Marco warned. "I don't need your excuses making us look bad to the customers." Ethan's eyes welled with tears as he nodded silently. Sam noticed a savage grin of satisfaction on Gregory's face, quickly hidden when Marco turned his way. "Need anything from the back, superstar?" Marco asked Gregory, his tone completely transformed to friendly deference. We're good up front, Gregory replied magnanimously, just trying to make the best of what we have to work with. He shot a pointed look at the kitchen staff. As the rush continued, Sam quietly helped Ethan clean up the mess. The young man whispered, "This isn't the first time. They do this to everyone new in the kitchen. Last week they hid my time card so I didn't get paid for 8 hours." Sam felt something harden inside him, a resolve crystallizing beyond his role as an undercover owner. This wasn't just poor management or casual workplace bullying. This was systematic emotional abuse, wage theft, safety violations, and it was happening under his ownership. As he bandaged Ethan's cut hand, Sam made a silent promise. This wouldn't stand, not for another day. The morning after the plate incident, Sam arrived at the diner earlier than usual. At 5:11 a.m., the parking lot was empty except for Eduardo's weathered pickup truck. Sam found the dishwasher already elbow-deep in soapy water. "You're here early," Sam remarked, hanging his jacket on a hook. Eduardo startled slightly. "Oh Sam, good morning. I come in early most days. The extra hours help with rent even if they don't all make it onto my time card." Sam's eyebrows rose. "They don't pay you for this time?" Eduardo shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "Marco says early prep doesn't count as scheduled hours. But I need the job, so..." Sam made a quick decision. He pulled his phone from his pocket and set the voice recorder running, slipping it into his apron pocket. "Tell me more about how the scheduling works," he prompted, helping Eduardo load the industrial dishwasher. Over the next week, Sam became the diner's most attentive employee, but not in the way Marco and the others assumed. His prep duties provided perfect cover to move throughout the establishment, gathering evidence of the systemic abuse. He set his phone to record conversations that revealed the full extent of Marco's favoritism. He documented how the tips were unfairly distributed, with Marco taking an unauthorized cut before the official distribution. "Gregory's car payment is due," he overheard Marco telling Jessica. "Let's make sure his section gets the business crowd today." Meanwhile, Kevin's request for a shift change to attend his daughter's school concert was denied with a curt, "Kitchen staff doesn't get special treatment." Sam started arriving early and staying late, building trust with the kitchen staff who were initially wary of the new face. Gradually, they began sharing their stories. "I've worked here 3 years, Darlene confided one evening, as they cleaned the grill together. "Used to be a good place, but after the old chef left, Marco took over and everything changed. He's terrified of the servers because they have the owner's ear. They complained about the last chef until he was forced out." "Have you tried talking to the owners?" Sam asked, knowing full well the answer. Darlene laughed bitterly. "They don't care as long as the money keeps flowing. Place has changed hands twice in 3 years. Last guy visited once, saw the dining room full, and left happy. Never set foot in the kitchen." Sam made careful notes of every conversation, building a comprehensive picture of the toxic culture that had taken root. One Tuesday, when business was slow, he approached Ethan, whose hand was still bandaged from the broken plate incident. "How are you holding up?" Sam asked quietly. Ethan glanced nervously toward the front. "I'm okay, just keeping my head down." "That wasn't your fault the other day," Sam pressed gently. "You know that, right?" The younger man's eyes darted around before he whispered, "It happens all the time. Gregory or one of the others messes with us, then Marco blames us." He hesitated before adding, "I have texts from the last prep cook. He warned me about them before he quit." "Would you be willing to show me those texts?" Sam asked. Ethan seemed conflicted, but eventually nodded. "Just don't tell anyone. I really need this job." The texts were damning, detailed accounts of sabotage, manipulation, and emotional abuse, spanning months. Sam photographed them with permission, adding them to his growing evidence file. Meanwhile, the front of house staff barely registered Sam's existence, which worked perfectly for his investigation. He was just another kitchen nobody, invisible and therefore harmless. "That new prep guy won't last a month," Amber declared loudly in the break room, unaware that Sam was just around the corner. "They never do. Who cares?" Gregory laughed. "These kitchen types are a dime a dozen. Not like they have career options." Sam smiled tightly as he made note of the conversation. If only they knew who they were dismissing so casually. His investigation extended beyond the walls of the diner. He discreetly contacted former employees, offering to buy them coffee in exchange for their honest experiences. The pattern was consistent: good people driven away by a toxic environment that Marco not only permitted but actively fostered. They schedule impossible shifts, then write you up when you can't keep up, a former line cook named Jason told him. I worked 16 days straight without overtime pay. When I asked about it, my hours magically disappeared from the system. By the end of the second week, Sam had compiled a comprehensive dossier: audio recordings, text messages, tampered time cards, and testimonials from current and former employees. He had documented health code violations that Marco overlooked when committed by his favorites. He had proof of Gregory deliberately sabotaging kitchen orders, then blaming the cooks. But the most valuable intel came unexpectedly, when Sam overheard Marco on the phone in his office, door ajar. Yes, of course, Mr. Wilson, Marco said smoothly, using Sam's undercover surname. Everything's running perfectly for your visit next week. The staff is harmonious. Food quality is excellent. No problems at all with kitchen turnover. Those rumors are greatly exaggerated. Sam realized Marco was speaking to him, or rather to his owner persona, completely unaware that the man himself was standing just outside, recording every lie. The kitchen crew adores me, Marco continued, chuckling. I run a tight ship but fair. You won't find a more dedicated team anywhere. As Sam quietly retreated, a message buzzed on his phone from his assistant. Owner's inspection visit officially scheduled for next Friday at 11 a.m. All staff have been notified. Perfect timing. The stage was set for the final act of his undercover operation, and not a moment too soon. That very afternoon, he witnessed Marco reducing a young waitress to tears for a minor mistake, while Amber and Jessica watched with amusement. The diner needed more than new management, it needed a complete cultural reset. And Sam was ready to deliver. The morning of the owner's visit transformed Sunrise Diner. Fresh flowers appeared on every table. The specials board featured premium dishes that hadn't been served in months. Staff arrived in pristine uniforms. The front-of-house team sporting matching Sunrise yellow ties and scarves that Sam had never seen before. Remember, Marco addressed the assembled staff 30 minutes before opening. Mr. Carter will be here at 11. This is make or break for all of us. The diner could be sold again if he's not impressed. Sam stood at the back of the group, wearing his usual prep cook attire. No one paid him any attention as Marco continued his speech. Front of house. You know what to do. Charm, efficiency, teamwork. Kitchen staff. Marco's tone hardened. No mistakes today. None. I don't care what you have to do, but every plate comes out perfect, and on time. Anyone who embarrasses me will be gone tomorrow. The atmosphere crackled with tension as the doors opened for breakfast service. Sam worked his station quietly, watching the elaborate performance unfold around him. Gregory and Amber moved through the dining room with practiced grace, their previous sneers replaced with dazzling smiles. Jessica had brought homemade cookies for the break room to share with our kitchen family, she announced loudly, though Sam noted she specifically placed them near the front servers' lockers. Marco prowled the kitchen like a drill sergeant, inspecting every dish and barking orders. Twice he made Kevin restart entrees that looked perfectly fine. Not today, he hissed. Everything has to be flawless. At 10:55, Marco gathered everyone for a final pep talk. He's almost here. Remember, we're one big happy family at Sunrise Diner. Sam slipped away during the commotion, ducking into the restroom. He quickly changed from his food-stained apron into a crisp button-down shirt and slacks he'd stashed earlier. He combed his hair, removed the baseball cap that had become his signature, and pulled a small leather portfolio from his backpack. When he emerged, the staff was lined up at the front, their backs to him, watching through the windows for the arrival of the mysterious owner's luxury car. Sam walked calmly to the center of the dining room and cleared his throat. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for assembling. The staff turned in confusion, expressions shifting from expectation to bewilderment as they recognized the voice, but not the transformation. Sam, Darlene was the first to speak. What are you doing? Mr. Carter will be here any minute. Actually, Sam smiled, opening his leather portfolio. Mr. Carter is already here. Samuel Carter, owner of Sunrise Diner and 5 other restaurants across the state. The silence that followed was absolute. Marco's face drained of color. Gregory froze mid-stride. Amber's perfect smile faltered and disappeared. "That's not possible," Marco finally stammered. "You're just a prep cook. You're nobody." "I was a prep cook," Sam corrected. "For the past 2 weeks, I've been working alongside the real heart of this diner, the kitchen staff you've been systematically abusing." He gestured to the stunned kitchen crew. "While I've been here, I've witnessed behavior that would disgust our customers and violates not just our company values, but basic human decency." Sam opened his portfolio and withdrew a stack of papers. "I have documented evidence of time card manipulation, tip theft, deliberate sabotage, verbal abuse and safety violations." He turned to a customer seated nearby, an older gentleman who had been quietly enjoying his coffee. "Mr. Henderson, as the health department inspector who's been breakfasting here incognito this week, would you say that's accurate?" The man nodded gravely, another prearranged piece falling into place. Chaos erupted as Marco lunged forward. "This is ridiculous. You can't just—" "I can and I will," Sam cut him off, his voice steel beneath velvet. "This is my diner, and I've seen everything." From his portfolio, Sam produced his phone and tapped the screen. Marco's voice filled the now silent restaurant. "The kitchen crew adores me. I run a tight ship, but fair." The recording continued, damning in its contrast to reality. Sam turned to face the entire staff. "Some of you might be wondering why I didn't step in sooner, why I let the abuse continue while I gathered evidence." His gaze swept across the faces watching him. "Because a problem this deep needs to be addressed at its root. One day of good behavior for the owner's visit wouldn't show me the truth." He focused on Marco. "And the truth is that under your leadership, this diner has become a toxic wasteland for talented, hard-working people." "You can't fire me," Marco blustered. "I've kept this place profitable." "At what cost?" Sam replied, gesturing to Ethan's still bandaged hand. "Profit built on abuse isn't sustainable. It's exploitation." Sam placed his portfolio on a table and extracted a final set of documents. "Marco, Gregory, Amber, you're terminated, effective immediately. Your final checks will be mailed after a complete audit of the tip distribution and time card records." The three stood speechless as Sam continued. "Jessica, your position depends on a probationary period and mandatory workplace respect training." He turned to the kitchen staff, whose expressions ranged from shock to cautious hope. "As for the rest of you, those who've endured this treatment while continuing to serve our customers with dignity, I owe you an apology. And a promise that Sunrise Diner is about to witness a new dawn." As security guards Sam had arranged discreetly escorted the fired employees to collect their belongings, Eduardo approached hesitantly. "Mr. Carter, is this real? Or just some elaborate joke?" Sam placed a hand on the dishwasher's shoulder. "This is very real, and long overdue." The following Monday, Sunrise Diner reopened with a transformed atmosphere. Gone was the invisible barrier between kitchen and dining room. In its place stood a new organizational chart posted proudly near the entrance, one that reflected value rather than hierarchy. "Our first staff meeting as a united team," Sam announced, looking around the circle of nervous but hopeful faces. "Let me introduce our new leadership. Darlene, the resilient line cook, who had endured years of mistreatment while maintaining her standards, was now head chef. Darlene's commitment to quality never wavered, even when she received none of the credit," Sam explained. "That's the kind of integrity we're building this diner around." Eduardo had been promoted to kitchen manager, responsible for ensuring fair scheduling and proper equipment maintenance areas that had been neglected under Marco's regime. Most surprisingly to the staff, Ethan, the young dishwasher who had been so cruelly sabotaged, was named training coordinator. Ethan showed remarkable patience and resilience in the face of deliberate harassment, Sam explained as the young man blushed. "Those are exactly the qualities we need in someone who will help new staff integrate into our culture." For the front of house, Sam had promoted Melissa, a quiet, efficient server who had been relegated to the worst sections because she wouldn't participate in Marco's favoritism games. "The wall between front and back ends today," Sam declared. "From now on, everyone rotates through different stations monthly. Servers will learn prep work. Kitchen staff will spend time interacting with customers. Not only will this build mutual respect, but it ensures everyone understands each role's challenges." The policy changes were equally dramatic. Tips would be pooled and distributed evenly across all staff, acknowledging that customer satisfaction depended on everyone's efforts. Scheduling would prioritize seniority and skill rather than favoritism. Most importantly, a zero-tolerance policy for workplace bullying was instituted, with clear reporting procedures that went directly to ownership. "But how will we know if it's working?" asked Jessica, one of the few front-of-house staff who had been given a second chance. "Marco always said profits were all that mattered." Sam smiled. "We'll measure success differently. Staff retention, customer satisfaction, and yes, profits too, but sustainable profits built on respect, not exploitation." The first few weeks weren't easy. Old habits died hard, and the muscle memory of division took time to unlearn. There were awkward moments when kitchen staff found themselves face-to-face with customers for the first time, or when former servers struggled with food preparation. But something remarkable began to happen. Creativity flourished where fear had once reigned. Eduardo suggested a more efficient kitchen layout that reduced accidents by 30%. Ethan, no longer terrified of making mistakes, developed a popular new dessert that quickly became the diner's signature offering. Customers noticed the difference too. Regular patrons commented on the newfound warmth that seemed to emanate from every corner of the establishment. "The food tastes happier," one elderly customer told Sam during his weekly visits. "I know that sounds silly, but it's true." It wasn't silly at all. Sam knew that food made under duress carried that energy. Now, dishes were prepared with pride and served with genuine care. 3 months after the dramatic reveal, Sunrise Diner had become the talk of the town. A local newspaper ran a feature on their innovative approach to restaurant management. Applications for employment tripled. Most tellingly, revenue had increased by 25%, proving that ethical treatment and profitability weren't mutually exclusive. "You could have just fired everyone and started fresh," Darlene remarked to Sam, during a quiet moment between shifts. "Why go through all that undercover work?" Sam considered the question carefully. "Because I needed to understand the problem from the inside. Sunrise wasn't broken because of bad employees, it was broken because good people were trapped in a toxic system. You can't fix a system you don't fully understand." On the 6-month anniversary of the restructuring, Sam invited everyone, including all the former employees who had been driven away, to a celebration dinner after closing time. The dining room buzzed with conversation and laughter as old wounds healed and new connections formed. Ethan, now confident and thriving, raised his glass in a toast. "To second chances and new beginnings. And to seeing people for who they really are," added Eduardo, with a meaningful glance at Sam. As the evening wound down, Sam found himself alone with Darlene in the kitchen. She was preparing a special dish, one that hadn't been on the menu during Marco's reign. "My grandmother's recipe," she explained. "Marco said it wasn't sophisticated enough, but it's honest food made with love, and that's what Sunrise stands for now." Sam watched as she worked, her movements confident and joyful where once they had been tense and guarded. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I've opened 6 restaurants, but this is the first one where I feel like I've built something that matters beyond the bottom line." Darlene smiled as she plated the home-style dish. "That's because you didn't just change the management, Sam, you changed the heart." As they carried the food out to the waiting staff, Sam looked around at the transformed diner. The physical space was largely the same booths, same counter, same vintage decor, but the spirit of the place was unrecognizable from that first day he'd walked in as a nobody. Sunrise Diner had finally lived up to its name. After a long dark night, a new day had dawned, one where every worker was valued, every contribution mattered, and no one would ever again be treated as invisible.